So I'm in my room. I've got my computer on in front of me. Got my microphone set up. There's a notepad open with some notes about my podcast. It's time to rewind. Looks like they're open to the 41st scene of Memento that starts in color at 83 minutes and 31 seconds, with Leonard looking at a coaster with a note reading "Come by after, Natalie" on the back, and ends at 86 minutes and 23 seconds, with Natalie offering Leonard a loogie-filled beer on the house. There's also a Skype window open. Right, hang on. Who is this?
Hi, Bubbawheat. It's me. It's Eric, the Color Scenes co-host.
Oh, of course. It's welcome back. And who is this?
Oh, you've got to remember me by now, Bubbawheat. It's Leandra from Rocky Horror Minute.
Oh, of course. Yeah, welcome back. And I'm glad to have you back for another week of Natalie. And this is, I think there are maybe 4 or 5 like really great scenes, and I do really enjoy this one. It's one of those that is very different the first time you watch it versus the second time you watch it.
Very much agreed. This scene, when I first watched it, made me just a little sick.
Yeah, it's like, we have this building sense of animosity that we get from Natalie, starting with her 180-degree turn just a few weeks back, whenever she gets Leonard so mad that he hits her. But at this point we still don't really know why there is this animosity coming from Natalie. And as soon as Leonard comes in the bar, and we get the impression here that Natalie has never met Leonard before face to face, other than we'll find out next week that she sees him in the car briefly before this. But then watching it the second time, it's like you completely understand that she has every right to treat Leonard like crap because he waltzes into her bar wearing her boyfriend's suit because he found her coaster in his pocket. And it really gives that second meaning to her saying, you can't just waltz in here dressed like that and ask for a beer.
Yeah, and just the great line read that Carrie Ann Moss gives your pocket when he mentions he found this in his pocket. It's just excellent line read there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's just so great, and it's so telling. It's kind of odd the first time that you see it, that you hear it, but then the second time around, it has just this additional weight to it because it's very it's very important, the way that she leans on that your.
You really do get a chance to watch her in this bit just start trying to figure out what she can do to make the most of interacting with Leonard. She starts out very combative, and by the end of it, she's decided to test Leonard in admittedly a disgusting way, but
Yeah, it's disgusting, but it's easy and simple and it's a very quick test and effective too.
But she doesn't have to test somebody unless she's planning on using them.
Because she doesn't seem the type, Bert's the type of person that would test him just out of curiosity's sake.
Yes, Bert with his NPC energy.
And I do like how, I think another notable line from Natalie is when she says, "You can't remember where you've been or what you've just done." Because, she can clearly tell that he has just done something to Jimmy. She doesn't know what that is, but that, she is really leaning on the fact that he has just done something to Jimmy, but he doesn't know what he's done.
And given the fact that Jimmy, we discover, is that is her boyfriend, I feel like this is the only time that you see her really, when she initially comes to terms with the fact that something clearly has happened to Jimmy. This is really the most angry we see her up until, of course, later.
Mm-hmm.
Well, earlier. No, it's later.
Later for her, earlier for us.
Yes.
And also she says, "My boyfriend told me about you."
Hmm.
So this is I think the first indication we have that Leonard actually directly interacted with Jimmy. I don't think that we've ever had confirmation at this point in the movie that the two of them actually met.
No.
But we also know that she says the cop came in asking about him, and a cop talked about the memory guy. So did both of them tell Natalie about Leonard? Is she messing with him a little bit just to test him? There's a couple of things at play here.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that it's almost like a slight convenience for the audience that she has heard of Leonard from Jimmy and or the cop. So that way, as an audience, we can skip the whole full explanation of his condition because she knows that he's the memory guy, and so he doesn't need to explain it to her and at the same time the audience again.
But she also at least gives a little bit of shorthand to that by going, "Are you Teddy?" And then once she establishes, no, that's not Teddy, she can kind of go back into, okay, then I know what your deal is.
Yeah, and she talks about this cop, and like the way that she puts it, because it's, especially knowing this movie, you really get the sense that it was very clearly Teddy coming in and asking, and basically coming in looking for the Jaguar. And I get the feeling that he probably went to the bar first before he, in next week finds him at the tattoo parlor. And I do like this whole play up of the spitting, making this big scene, even though it's just the three of them, having them all spit into the beer stein. And I just really like the personalities of the way that all three of them do it. It's like, the barfly doesn't have to be convinced at all. She just like goes over and, probably just says, "Can you spit in this beer?" And he's like, "Okay."
Oh yeah, he's
say no more.
He's not only is he only too happy to do it, but he's got something right at the ready also.
Mm.
I mean, he didn't know he was going to be asked this question. He was like, "Oh yeah, sure, Huck, here you go."
And then Leonard, very reluctantly, and he just barely, you can tell that it's all saliva, and then Natalie makes a big show of it. And she has like the coffee stirrer spoon, the little swizzle spoon, to give it a nice barista style stir.
I mean, the big hocking noise that she makes, and then the sort of slow motion, long, drooly type of spit that she makes out of it too, it stands out to me because that's the kind of thing. That's that kind of thing that us disgusting guys do, And so I like the contrast that they have, this woman doing it instead.
Mm-hmm. And then Leonard goes to sit down at a booth because, he's probably disgusted. He's like, "I'm getting away from her." And I'm going to go sit down. And he's looking at his Polaroids. And do you think, like, I imagine that one of those Polaroids is the Teddy Polaroid. Do you think that he sees that and he, like, looks at them and then he has a moment and then he, like, looks sideways and kind of towards Natalie? Do you think that's like a moment of recognition that he sees the Teddy and then kind of half remembers that she was asking about someone named Teddy and wondering if they were the same person.
I think there's definitely a little bit of that, like, oh, why is that name familiar? Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like there it's a strange look to give if there's nothing going on, right? There's definitely either I feel like we might be seeing the exact moment where the memory is switching. Maybe he's looking at the photo, he sees the name Teddy, she mentioned Teddy, and he's like, and then he starts to look over, and it's almost like we're getting the memory snap right there. So by the time he even turns his head, it's gone, and so he's like, wait, what, huh? And and there's the confusion of the memory snap. Because, the thing is also, since this is the first time Natalie's meeting him, and I know I brought this up when we have the scene where Natalie goes out into her car and waits after Leonard hits her so she can wait enough time to come back in and make him think it was Todd that hit her. But she just met this guy, and I mean, this could be a function of just the movie editing going on. But how does she know he has already had a memory lapse to be able to bring over the disgusting mug of beer? Or does she figure maybe he won't know it's the same cup if he has a lapse? It's just she's taking a big risk bringing the cup over here if this isn't just a trick of editing, and maybe we're expected to believe it has been a little bit longer than us watching for this the last 20 seconds.
Yeah, I could see it there being, just a slight time jump, like nothing too major, but I could also see it, just being that quick and, just hearing enough about this memory guy. They would probably say, how quickly he forgets things, because I think that would be something notable that they would talk about when bringing this guy up. And this also could be a test where, even just from hearing it, if she sent it down and he remembers, maybe she would just take it back and then give it a little bit longer and try it again. But since it worked the first time, she doesn't have to do that. And then, of course, it ends with the punchline, which is the repetition of the beginning of the last scene. And I like that it has the added punch of, hearing the barflies laugh again. And, and that's the end of this episode. That's the end of my notes. Do either of you have anything else for this scene?
I don't.
I do not. Just continually disgusted by what happens. This is a moment that even though it had been a long time since I had seen the movie, this kind of unfortunately pops into my head from time to time, and I go, oh, that was gross.
and you're a host of a very insane movie with a lot of insane stuff going on.
Yeah, but no spitting. That's just that's where I draw the line, Eric.
Yeah, I imagine if Rocky Horror was made today, that there probably would be a little bit more extreme stuff in there, at least to make it relevant.
I think so.
But yeah, that's. I think that wraps up this episode, on a good discussing note, which is, I think, perfect for this scene in general, which it's just, very quick and dirty and also slightly mean-spirited test for Leonard, which makes sense considering where Natalie is at this point in time.
Would you say he passes the test or fails the test?
Both.
Yeah.
Oh, I think if he's drinking a beer filled with saliva and snot, he failed.
But once again, thank you so much for joining us for these past few weeks, Leandra. And once again, why don't you take a moment and let everybody know where else they can find you online?
Fantastic. You can find me at rockyhorrorminute.com or just about any place you can get your podcast. Just search for Rocky Horror Minute.
And as always, thank you, Eric, for joining me as my co-host for this entire season.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll have to someday. We'll have to meet so I can thank you by buying you an untarnished beer.
Yeah, definitely be wary of any additional bubbles in it. Maybe I'll just make sure that it's I'll probably take a bottle rather, a sealed bottle rather than a draft beer, just to be on the safe side. But as always, I am your host, Bubbawheat, and you can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on all the podcatchers out there. And we also have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, and you can join that to discuss episodes as they come out, as well as have discussions about time loop movies and TV episodes. And I also wanted to mention that the next episode coming out this Thursday, we have a special guest. We have Stephen Tobolowsky, the man who plays Sammy Jenkins himself, is on for, a fantastic discussion on the next episode. So be sure to tune in for that one. And until next time, I assume I've already told you about Memento?
Only every time I see you.
I found this in my pocket.
You are a pocket.